Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're getting into part one of your essential daily insights for July 3rd, 2025, especially for all you keen learners and UPSC aspirants out there. Our whole mission here is to really break down complex information into knowledge you can actually use. Think of it as a shortcut to being truly well-informed. And, for some of you who've been following things closely, some of this might be a good revision, just helping to cement what you already know.
Exactly. We're going to cover some really significant ground today. We'll be looking at major policy shifts, legal reforms right here in India, all the way to key global strategic talks. And what's interesting is how these seemingly separate topics, well, they're often connected in ways that offer unique insights. It's about seeing the bigger picture, which is crucial.
Absolutely. Okay, let's dive into our first big topic. This one's really fundamental for India's socioeconomic development, the Employment-Linked Incentive, or ELI scheme. This was a major announcement in the Union Budget 2024-25, part of the PM's package specifically targeting employment generation.
Yeah, and the scale here is, well, it's quite striking. It falls under the Ministry of Labor and Employment, and the outlay is huge, almost 99,446 crore, and that's just over 2 years, 2025 to 2027. The target? Pretty ambitious, supporting 3.5 crore jobs, and that includes nearly 2 crore first-time employees.
Wow, 3.5 crore.
It's massive. But beyond the numbers, the core objective is key. It's about promoting job creation, yes, but also enhancing employability, expanding Social Security, and there's a very specific focus on manufacturing.
Manufacturing again.
Right. It signals a real strategic push to, formalize employment and really boost industrial growth, helping absorb India's youth population.
Okay, so that's the big picture. How does it actually work for people and businesses? I understand it's split into two parts.
That's right. Two distinct parts. Part A is all about incentives for first-time employees. So if you're registered with the EPFO earning up to 1 lakh a month, you could be eligible. The incentive is basically 1 month's EPF wage, capped at 15,000.
Okay, and how is that paid out?
It's dispersed in 2 chunks. The first after 6 months of continuous employment, the second after 12 months. But there's a catch: you need to complete a financial literacy program, too.
Ah, interesting. So building skills as well.
Exactly. There's even a savings provision built in, and the payment mechanism. It's all direct benefit transfer using the Aadhaar Bridge Payment System, ABPS. Makes it pretty efficient.
Right, streamlined.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's part A for employees. What about part B?
So Part B shifts the focus to incentives for employers. This is where the push for additional job creation comes in, especially, again, in manufacturing. Eligibility for employers means they need to be EPFO registered, obviously, and they need to hire at least 2 more employees if they have less than 50 staff, or at least 5 more if they have 50 or more.
Got it. And the incentive for them?
It's up to 3,000 per month per new hire for 2 years. But here's the significant part for manufacturing. It's extended to 4 years for that sector.
4 years? That's quite a commitment.
It really is. Shows the strategic importance placed on manufacturing growth. Of course, each new employee needs to stay for at least 6 months, and the salary cap is still 1 lakh a month for those employees. This part alone, Part B, is projected to create something like 2.6 crore additional jobs. Payments go straight into the employer's PAN-linked accounts. So you can see the potential here. Formalizing employment, boosting industry. It really underpins the country's economic goals.
Definitely a major initiative. Okay, so while jobs are crucial, another area getting a strategic boost is sports. The Union Cabinet just approved the National Sports Policy, NSP 2025. It's also called Khelo Bharat Niti 2025. This replaces the old 2001 policy. And just for context, India's very first NSP was actually back in 1984.
Yeah, quite a history there. And the aim for this new policy is stated very clearly. Harnessing the power of sports for nation's holistic development.
Holistic development sounds comprehensive.
It is. It's built on 5 key pillars. First, excellence on the global stage, strengthening everything from grassroots programs right up to elite levels, and improving how the national sports federations are run. Second is economic development. This looks at promoting sports tourism, encouraging startups in the sports sector, basically recognizing sports as a proper economic driver.
Right, not just about playing.
Exactly. Third is social development, making sure there's inclusion, participation from women, weaker sections, everyone. Fourth pillar, sports as a people's movement. This is about mass participation, building a fitness culture, making sure everyone has access to facilities. And finally, number 5 is integration with the National Education Policy 2020. So bringing sports into school curricula, training teachers specifically for sports.
That makes a lot of sense, integrating it early.
It's a very holistic approach. It's not just about chasing medals, though that's part of it. It's using sport as a tool for, well, national well-being and even projecting soft power.
And how will it be implemented? Any framework mentioned?
Yes, the framework seems quite solid. It talks about a strong regulatory and legal structure, finding innovative ways to finance it, like public-private partnerships, CSR funds, and also leveraging new tech things like AI and data analytics in sports.
Okay. And we should probably remember sports is technically a state subject in India, right, under the 7th schedule.
That's correct. But there's a dedicated central ministry, the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, and key bodies like the Sports Authority of India, SAI, that was set up in '84 too.
And existing schemes like TOPS, Khelo India, Fit India movement, they'll presumably align with this new policy.
Absolutely. This NSP 2025 really ties into India's broader ambitions. It's about asserting soft power, regional goals, positioning India as a global sporting contender, maybe even for the 2036 Olympics.
The Olympics.
And it's about harnessing that demographic dividend we always talk about. It fits right into the whole Viksit Bharat vision. It's a statement, really.
Okay, powerful stuff. From sports, let's pivot to innovation. Another big cabinet approval.
Yeah.
The Research Development and Innovation, or RDI scheme. This one comes with a massive outlay, 1 lakh crore, and the core aim is really to get the private sector more involved in R&D.
Precisely. The main goal is to offer long-term financing, or refinancing, often with long repayment periods and, crucially, at low or even zero interest rates. The idea is to spark private investment. Key objectives include funding projects that are further along, at higher technology readiness levels, or TRLs,
Okay.
helping companies acquire critical technologies, and setting up a specific deep tech fund of funds. That 1 lakh crore aims squarely at private R&D and deep tech. It's a major signal.
A signal of shifting towards being an innovator, not just a consumer of tech.
Exactly. It recognizes that private enterprise has a huge role to play in future breakthroughs, alongside public research.
So how does the money actually flow? You mentioned a fund of funds.
Right. It's a two-tiered mechanism. At the top, there's a special purpose fund, the SPF. This sits within the Anusantan National Research Foundation, or ANRF.
ANRF. That was set up recently, wasn't it?
Yes, under the ANRF Act of 2023, its job is basically to seed, grow, and promote R&D. And interestingly, the old Science and Engineering Research Board, SERB, has been absorbed into ANRF now.
Okay, got it. So ANRF holds the main fund.
Right, the SPF. And from there, the money gets allocated to what are called second-level fund managers. This could be as long-term concessional loans or maybe equity funding, especially for startups.
And who sets the direction for all this?
The strategic direction comes from the governing board of the ANRF itself, and that's chaired by the Prime Minister. The Department of Science and Technology is the nodal department. When they talk about focusing on sunrise sectors, they mean areas poised for really rapid growth, electronics, semiconductors, EVs, renewable energy, agro and food processing, healthcare, pharma, those kinds of fields. The hope is this scheme tackles funding issues that private companies face in R&D, encourages them to adopt new tech, and provides that crucial growth capital, ultimately boosting India's competitiveness globally. It's a strategic bet on the future.
A very significant bet. Okay, let's shift gears again, this time to something foundational: justice and security. We're actually marking the 1-year anniversary of India's 3 new criminal laws. That's the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, BNS, the Bharatiya Nagarik Suraksha Sanhita, BNSS, and the Bharatiya Saksha Adhiniyam, BSA. They came into force July 1st, 2024.
That's right, replacing the old colonial-era laws, the Indian Penal Code of 1860, the CRPC of 1973, and the Indian Evidence Act of 1872, a massive overhaul.
And the stated aim was pretty ambitious, wasn't it?
Hugely. To make the justice system not just affordable and accessible, but also simpler, more consistent, transparent, essentially modernizing the whole thing and making it more citizen-friendly.
So 1 year on, what kind of reforms have we actually seen, especially on the technology front?
There's definitely been a push there. We've seen things like e-Saksha, that's e-evidence, and e-summons being notified in, I think, 11 states and UTs now.
Okay.
Then there's Nyaya Shruti, which allows courts to hear witness testimony via video conferencing. That's up and running in 6 states UTs. And the CCTNS network, the Crime and Criminal Tracking Network and Systems, that now covers over 14,000 police stations, connecting some 22,000 courts online. That's significant integration.
It sounds like it. What about capacity building and other changes?
Well, reports say 23 states and UTs have completed 100% capacity building for the new laws, which is quite impressive if accurate. And community service as a penalty has been introduced in 12 states UTs.
So there's some definite progress on the ground, particularly with tech integration.
Yes, but, and this is a big but, there are still major challenges in implementation.
Such as?
Well, infrastructure is a big one. Many police stations, courts, even prisons, they still lack basic internet, let alone the tools needed for all this digital stuff.
The digital divide.
Exactly. And while the BNSS sets timelines for justice delivery, enforcing them is tough.
Yeah.
You've got significant vacancies, around 22% in police and district judiciary.
Yeah.
Meeting deadlines becomes very difficult.
Right.
Plus, the new laws put a big emphasis on forensics, which is good in principle, but implementation is hampered by lots of vacancies there too. Nearly half the administrative and scientific posts in forensics are reportedly empty.
So the ambition is there, the laws are in place, but the resources and infrastructure haven't fully caught up yet.
That's a fair summary. Translating these big legal reforms into effective nationwide practice is, well, it's an ongoing challenge, especially in a country as vast and varied as India.
Understood. Have there been any key Supreme Court judgments related to these new laws in the past year?
Yes, a couple worth noting. There was the Re-Inhuman Conditions in 1382 Prisons case, which dealt with applying BNSS Section 479 that's about under-trial detention retrospectively. And another case, Badshah Majid Malik v. Directorate of Enforcement, saw someone get bail under the PMLA, partly because they'd served 1/3 of the maximum sentence under the relevant BNSS provision. So the courts are starting to interpret and apply these new laws.
Okay. And just to quickly recap, what were some of the major new provisions introduced overall?
Key changes included things like being able to register an FIR at any police station, regardless of where the crime happened, that boosts accessibility. There's the mandatory death sentence for certain very serious offenses against women and children. New specific offenses were created for terrorist acts, acts endangering sovereignty, unity, integrity.
And mob lynching.
Yes. Crucially, mob lynching and snatching were defined as specific offenses, addressing those growing concerns directly. It reflects a move towards a system that aims to be more modern, tech-savvy, and focused on citizens' needs, even with those implementation hurdles we discussed.
Right. Okay, let's briefly touch upon captive non-public networks, or CNPNs. The Department of Telecom just issued guidelines for these.
Yes, and launched a module on the Saral Sanchar portal. Basically, a CNPN is a private wireless network set up for an organization's own use within a specific area.
So not like your regular mobile network.
Exactly. It's not accessible to the public, not used for commercial telecom services. Think of large factories, ports, campuses needing their own dedicated secure network. They get complete control over data, security, everything. It's about customized connectivity for enterprises.
Got it. Okay, now for some quicker updates across different sectors. First, the Solar Energy Corporation of India, or SECI. Big news from them.
Quite impressive, yes. They've executed power sale agreements, PSAs, for over 60 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity. That's a huge amount.
Wow, and SECI's role?
Well, it was set up back in 2011 initially for the National Solar Mission. It's a Navratna PSU under the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, MNRE. It acts as a key implementing agency for MNRE schemes, holds a power trading license, and even handles special projects like greening islands, Lakshadweep, Andaman, and Nicobar, and high-altitude solar, like the big project planned in Ladakh.
A very important role in India's renewable push. Next up, a scientific development from IST, a glowing paper sensor for liver cancer.
Yes, this is fascinating. Scientists at IS Bangalore developed it. It uses a rare earth metal called terbium.
Terbium.
Yeah, it glows green. The sensor uses this glow to detect an enzyme called bull-glucuronidase, which is a known biomarker for liver cancer. Terbium itself is one of the lanthanide series metals. Found in minerals like monazite, it's used in solid-state devices, low-energy bulbs, even medical x-rays. So applying its properties in this way is quite innovative.
A potential diagnostic tool, then. Interesting. Shifting geographically, there was a mud volcano eruption in Taiwan recently.
That's right. Mud volcanoes aren't like regular volcanoes. They often form in subduction zones where tectonic plates meet, or sometimes where sediments get squeezed, like in river deltas.
So no lava.
No lava, no ash. They usually release gases, mostly methane and mud, obviously. They can be triggered naturally or sometimes by human activity, like mining or drilling. They look like mounds or hills, but geologically quite different from igneous volcanoes.
Good distinction to know. Now, a significant anniversary. The Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species, CITES, marks 50 years.
50 years. It's a landmark. CITES was actually conceived back in 1963, came into force in 1975. It was really the first global agreement of its kind. Its aim is crucial: ensuring international trade in wild animals and plants doesn't threaten their survival. It does this through a licensing system for any trade.
And it's legally binding.
It is legally binding on the parties, yes. There are 185 parties now, including India, which joined back in '76, but it's implemented through each country's own domestic laws. The Secretariat is run by UNRP in Geneva. Its highest body is the Conference of Parties. COP3 was actually held in New Delhi in 1981, and it protects over 40,900 species listed in 3 appendices, based on the level of threat and trade controls needed. Key initiatives like the MIKE program for monitoring illegal elephant killing also fall under it.
A vital convention, then. Moving to defense news, INS Udagiri was delivered to the Navy.
Yes, the second ship of the Project 17A stealth frigates. Project 17A is the follow-on class to the earlier Chevalier-class frigates, Project 17.
And a frigate is?
It's a multi-role warship primarily designed to protect other ships in a fleet from surface threats or air attacks. The P-17A ships have significantly enhanced stealth features compared to the older P-17s, plus state-of-the-art weapons and sensors. They're designed for blue water operations, meaning deep ocean, handling various threats across India's maritime interests.
Okay. Now, something concerning Operation Melon. The NCB busted a drug racket.
Yes, the Narcotics Control Bureau uncovered a large international drug racket operating on the darknet. They codenamed it Operation Melon. They recovered LSD blots, ketamine, and cryptocurrency. Both LSD and ketamine are extremely potent hallucinogens. They drastically alter perception, feelings, thoughts.
And ketamine, that's sometimes misused.
Yes, though important to note, ketamine is an NMDA receptor antagonist. It's not an opioid, despite some misconceptions. The operation also found evidence of Tails OS being used. That's an operating system specifically designed for accessing darknet markets securely. Shows the sophistication involved.
A worrying trend. Let's look at finance now. Certificates of deposits, or CDs. There's been a big jump in issuance by public sector banks.
A huge jump, actually, from just 6% of total CD issuance in 2022 to 69% in 2024. That's quite a shift.
So what exactly is a CD?
It's basically a negotiable money market instrument. It's issued electronically in dematerialized form against funds deposited with a bank or another eligible financial institution for a fixed period. They're typically issued at a discount to their face value. Scheduled commercial banks can issue them, though not regional rural banks or local area banks, and some select all India financial institutions permitted by the RBI.
And who can invest in them?
Individuals, companies, trusts, funds, associations. Even NRIs can invest, but on a non-repatriable basis. The guidelines are set by the RBI.
Okay, good to know. Circling back to international relations, the Quad Foreign Ministers meeting concluded recently in Washington.
Yes, the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue, USA, India, Australia, Japan, they met and reaffirmed their strong support for a free, open, rules-based Indo-Pacific. A key message was rejecting any coercive or forceful changes to the status quo in the region. They've got a renewed agenda focusing on things like maritime security, economic prosperity, securing supply chains, emerging tech, and also humanitarian aid and disaster response.
Any mention of terrorism?
Yes, they condemned all terrorism, specifically mentioning the April 2025 Pahalgam attack. And they reiterated support for regional groups like ASEAN, the Pacific Islands Forum, and the Indian Ocean Rim Association, IORA. It shows that ongoing strategic alignment in the Indo-Pacific.
Right. And finally, our place in news today is Thailand. This follows the news about their constitutional court suspending the prime minister.
Indeed. Beyond the current political headlines, Thailand's location is really significant. It shares land borders with Myanmar, Laos, Cambodia, and Malaysia, and maritime borders in the Gulf of Thailand with Vietnam and in the Andaman Sea with Indonesia and India. Geographically, central Thailand is often called the Rice Bowl of Asia.
And the IMT highway.
Yes, the India-Myanmar-Thailand highway connects Moreh in India to Mae Sot in Thailand through Myanmar, important for regional connectivity. The Mekong River forms part of its border with Laos, and of course it's part of the infamous Golden Triangle narcotics area confluence of Thailand, Laos, Myanmar along the Mekong. India actually calls it the Death Triangle. Economically, it's the world's largest natural rubber producer, and strategically, the Kra Isthmus in southern Thailand, that's often discussed as a potential shipping shortcut, an alternative to the busy Malacca Strait. So lots of geographical and strategic relevance.
Absolutely. And with that detailed look at Thailand, we bring this deep dive to a close for today. We've really covered a vast range, haven't we? From domestic policies like the ELI scheme and the new sports policy, major legal reforms with the criminal laws, right through to global forums like Quad, conservation milestones like Sites at 50, and the strategic picture in places like Thailand. Connecting these diverse threads, as you said earlier, really gives you that richer, more nuanced understanding, which is so vital, especially for your preparation.
It really is, and perhaps something to think about is how interconnected everything is becoming. National policy, tech advancements, international collaboration, they're all weaving together to shape India's journey. Today's decisions here can have global ripples, and global events definitely impact us here. It really underlines the need for that kind of adaptive, connected thinking.
A great thought to end on. Thank you all for joining us on this deep dive. If you found this concentrated analysis useful, please do remember to like and subscribe to the show. It genuinely helps us keep bringing you these concise, insightful analyses, helping you stay incredibly well informed without feeling overwhelmed. Until next time.